So I'd like to welcome Sam Taylor to the Mint podcast. This is the first episode, and it's probably best, Sam, hi, if you give the audience that's listening a little bit of background on who you are. I know who you are, but it's great if you could sort of introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure, yeah, I'm Sam Taylor. I am currently the Interim Marketing Director at Direct Line Group, and we look after some of the big brands in insurance market, Direct Line, Churchill, Green Flag and others. I have been in the industry for 25 years now, since my first job or advertising job in 1998 in a company called Lotus Notes, and spent a lot of my career in advertising, brand, performance, and more recently investing more time in CRM. So I'd like to think that I've got quite a broad marketing experience and repertoire that I've built up over the last 25 years.
So how as a marketer now, how are you finding data is informing your short-term, medium-term and long-term decision-making around both the business and the marketing that you do?
So I think data has always informed the things we do and the things certainly I've done. But obviously you pair that with your gut instinct around what you think the right thing is to do. I think when you look back probably over the last 15 years, when you look at the conception of MMM modeling, econometrics and attribution measurement, all those sorts of things, it became an obsession for brands to try and drive more effective outcomes. But it was very much looking at history. What happened? What's happened in the last 10 years that we can build correlation or causation, tell us what we should do in the future. And I think, and that was great at the time. I think we're now in a world where that's less relevant because the future is evolving so quickly that what happened in the past isn't necessarily relevant for the future. But I think the other side of data is that accessibility to first-party data, quick real-time understanding of trends, of performance, of events that happen on your own website, allows you to decision in real time, which basically is challenging the role of econometrics, because the good old-fashioned test and control methodology that you have below the line is prevailing. It's becoming the best way to demonstrate what's working, what's not, how do you challenge it, closed loop measurement, in a way that probably we'd stopped using because MMM modeling became the thing. But that allows you to measure in real time, to decision in real time, to drive personalization in real time. And this is where where data's starting to take a different role, I think.
Like today, the world is so much more fragmented from a media perspective. The not just the media channels, but the opportunities within all of them. You're spoiled for choice, right? Whereas you go back 25 years, it wasn't like that. There was just a handful of media owners. You could meet with them, no problem. You can't do that today. So you have these opportunities. How do you view this?
Yeah, and I think that's why it's really important to think about audience first. And as a marketing, we are in the business of talking to audiences to drive changes in consumer behavior. That's to think about our brands, to buy our brands. And the more fragmented the market becomes, the more you need to think about audience. Because you can get, you could get lost in a conversation with Netflix. We go, I'd like to advertise on Netflix, when in reality, the advertising tier has still got quite low volume in terms of reach.
Scales low, yeah.
It might have a place to play, but it's not. But if you're thinking about a channel agnostic strategy, then it's less about, is Netflix on my plan? It's more about, can I reach my audience with the right message, with the right levels of attention? So that change in behavior does change. So it does mean you're having less conversations with multiple media owners and thinking more around, how can my agency navigate that fragmentation with the tools they've got to deliver the best strategy for the best plans for the business?
And I think that's an interesting point. As well as the fragmentation in media over the past few decades, we've also now have an increase in marketer tools that you can utilize. So when these things arise, how do you look at the utilization of them? What do you need? What's shiny and interesting versus that's really important for my business? How are you evaluating and are you from your own personal point of view within your career, are you an early adopter of new technology and new marketer tools?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been tried to be an early adopter where relevant, because unless brands or senior marketing people are embracing these things and how will they really drive value. So I do that. And, and 3-4 years ago, driving investment into measuring cross AV delivery in terms of reach and attention was something that didn't exist in tools and agencies at that point, because we as an organization at Direct Line, and me personally challenging it with my interests around AV, led to a point where all agencies now have tools, cross media tools, to plan reach effectively across multiple channels. So unless advertisers invest or marketing directors invest in these things, then they don't fly. But so I've always done that, and I think the challenge we have today in using tools is, and it's probably more important than it's ever been, because there's so many different ways to deliver advertising campaigns, is going back to what's the key objective of the campaign you're delivering. What am I trying to do? Because if I know I'm trying to drive a certain amount of reach amongst a certain audience, and that audience could be a broadcast audience, it could be 16 to 34-year-olds, it could be all those that are 18 that drive a car, it could be all those that are 18 that drive a car but drive safely, it could be all those 18 that drive cars safely that live in London. I mean, your audience could be as small as you want it to be, but the focus on that audience is critical, because then those tools play a role. If you don't do that, then the tools are useless.
How are you able to, using data, using the tools that you've got, able to kind of take that next leap from, okay, we're targeting that audience, what is the lag that you're willing to expect between campaign and results from your perspective, where you are now?
That depends on the type of activity.
Right.
So again, so when you're setting the objectives, you would have lag and lead indicators.
Yep.
So, there will be years where people have said, why are you measuring campaign through likes on Facebook?
Yes.
Now that's a lead indicator. If my objective is to reach a hard to reach young audience, then that audience liking me on Facebook is a lead indicator that you're reaching them, because they wouldn't like unless you did. B, they're engaging with your brand. So in that world, that's an okay objective from a lead point of view, but it's not a real lag indicator. It's not are we driving sales amongst that audience? Marketing
used to be very gut based for marketers. They get a feeling, okay, this feels like it'd be better on TV. This feels like it'd be better as billboards, or I think we should focus in London South East, whatever it might be. How much do you still allow your gut to rule your decision making versus the data that you're able to surface?
What's important with the relation between data and gut is that we've always used data really to support or validate gut.
Yeah.
And I think in big decisions like, I need to grow my brand, where should I do it? There's still going to be an element of gut. We know TV is another works. We know cinema is a really impactful, high attention driving platform for driving brand. So we know these things. We've learned these things as marketing directors over the years. I guess what is changing now is the real-timeness of marketing and how we use data, not just to back up our gut, but to use data to change our thinking around what we do in real time. Because we have that closed loop analysis, we can look at, did that work? Did that ad that I delivered 5 seconds ago drive an impact, or didn't it? Or did it drive an impact now? Will it drive an impact in 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? So that measurement, so using data to drive real time and measurement is what I think is changed the dynamic from just data and gut to data. To using data to back up your gut, to then use it to make real-time decisioning.
So with all this data that you have across the channels, and I'm sure it's vast, terabytes of data that you're pulling in, daily, weekly, monthly. The evolution of this is using machine learning, artificial intelligence, and then adding an automation to be able to take some of it off your shoulders, especially on the kind of the low level. How do you see the evolution of this, both sort of from your career perspective and like your day-to-day job? How do you see your day-to-day job changing really over the next 2, 3, 5 years? Being able to build ML, AI, automation, utilizing all the data you have.
So I think what's changing with the probably conception of AI. I mean, we've been using AI for things like PPC for some time. To some extent, it's been great for us, and others it hasn't, where manual campaign management has been more effective for us. So it's been around a while, but I guess where the opportunity now, where it's moving to, I think now is a place where will have the ability to be ultra personal in the way that you talk to a consumer, using data insight triggers along that way. So I think what we're finding now is that you can have as much impact on a consumer by talking to them in a really relevant way with a product at the right time in the right place, and that can be and will be fueled by AI, because we can't possibly create 7 million campaigns, 7 million prospects, whatever.
That's the dream, right?
What we can do is create a campaign schedule that then delivers through it messaging that's personalized and relevant by using machine learning. And that's not just in the way that we target and the way we create the messaging, but in the creative adaptation of that as well.
I don't know whether this is wonderful or manipulation.
But I guess what this really means is the ability to be personal and relevant at the highest level. Is where AI is going to take us. So, and I think whether it be language, I mean, how many brands really in the UK deliver messaging in every language available to consumers in the UK? But even, not many.
But even regional accents, right? If you've got a national brand, and that we're going to, people will tend to trust the regional accent that they're most comfortable with, rather than because everything can feel very London centric. We're talking from London now, but if you're up in Barnsley, you don't want to hear a couple of London guys with London accents, trying to sell you something. So, just even being able to do it on that front, I think gets really interesting.
And that is interesting, because I think, if you look at advertising, broadcast advertising over the last 2, 3, 4 years, maybe half a decade, advertisers and marketers have tried really hard to represent diverse audiences within those ads. So as a result of that, when you're running 2 or 3 big brand ads a year, you're trying to reflect the whole of society in one 30-second ad. And you can see that. And people have different opinions on whether that is right or wrong, whether it works, it doesn't work. What AI will do is go, actually, well, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try and reflect all diverse people in one ad. Reflect it in the ad that person sees, that ad that's more relevant for them. So you can deliver a TV ad that's got a diverse audience in it that reflects the consumer of that ad, then you're not trying to make it one size fits all for all different diversity. You don't need to, because AI allows you to go, well, we know something about this consumer, show them this ad. Or we know something about this consumer, show them this ad. And it might be that, maybe they're a vulnerable customer, maybe they're partially sighted, maybe they're hard of hearing. Show them an ad or play them an ad that's relevant to that audience. So I think whilst we've sort of dabbled a little bit and tried to do our best as an industry to be diverse, this also creates huge opportunity to make advertising as relevant as it can be using data signals in a way that we've never been able to do in the past.
So that's kind of like decisioning at the coalface, right? Basically, how consumers are consuming the ads, but from a data experience. From understanding data and using ML AI. Your own decisioning around, do we go billboard, do we go TV, do we, and actually being able to affect that, where you simply have a dashboard that you're able to kind of like check in on, going, what's the state of play of my business right now? Like, is that a position that you're already in? Is that the dream? Is that the nirvana?
It's the nirvana for everyone. We're nowhere near that, and I think in the insurance market, it's behind many markets. On that, but yeah, I mean, if you've got the ability to have accessibility to that data in real time to help not just drive decisioning but surface that thing so you can see it, then that is nirvana. In lieu of that, what you can do is, what we are doing is you look at what investment can we make in different MarTech solutions. Many businesses will be having conversations with Adobe and Adobe Experience Platform and different products. In the CRM world, you've got the Brazes that built fantastic CRM products, to utilize some of those systems and MarTech solutions to help you do that. So that might mean help us create a single customer view.
Yeah.
which is a challenge for many businesses, particularly multi-brand, multi-product businesses like ourselves. In that, from a portfolio point of view, you might have tech that says, actually, well, we can't build that SCV. So what we'll do is we will use a data clean room, and we'll move all our data from our CDP or from our marketing database or from our shopper data or whatever, into a clean room, and then join it together there, dedupe, create an ID, and then use that to target on different platforms. So many businesses are going on different journeys. I don't think there's anyone that is competent and really delivering a solution as a sort of marketing business at the high end of that spectrum yet. I think many people talk about it. It's that kind of teenage sex thing where everyone says they're doing it really well, but no one really.
Yeah.
But we're all on the journey.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's half the advertising industry thinks that we're doing amazingly, and it's like, if you talk to consumers, they just don't care in the main, And why should consumers care? I think it's the job of tech and the job of advertisers to actually have some cut through, to make them just noticed at the very least, so that you've got brand consideration, and then finally, hopefully, a purchase.
But I think what is really interesting though is what the data enables you to do, and AI will enable you to do, is for every touch point, and that could be a service, it could be marketing, it could be sales. In our world, it could be claims. For every touch point to be part of an ongoing conversation, and that conversation evidencing that you've listened. And I think what that data allows you to do is for every conversation not to be a first date, which is in many businesses, that's kind of what it is. You phone up the call center and they're like, who are you? What policy have you got? What product have you got? And that's normal. That's been normal practice for many years. But if you flip that and go, well, what if
you want a maitre d' service?
What if that in that world, what would that mean for you as a brand, product, or service? What would it mean for a world where brands don't just say what they are, they do what they say they are, on ongoing conversations? And people will say we are in the age of customer experience, and I think we really are. And brands will win or lose based on the experiences they provide their customers, not the marketing, on the experience.
Well, consumers have choice, right? And that's the beauty of it. So, and if they get, you probably know the data better than I do, but if you have a negative experience, how many people you tell versus having a positive experience, it does impact. There's certain brands I won't name that I will never use because I've had negative experiences with them. Yeah. So trying to sort of build that into understanding a customer experience, being able to deliver that for your customers, and then somehow being able to recognize what it was that you did well so it can be replicable.
And how you make customers feel. So I think that's what really is pivotal now in the ability to unlock data and insight to inform real-time marketing decisions or marketing communications, is that we've been through decades of brands being the voice. So talking to customers and having no ability to listen.
It's always been a one-way,
right? But what data does, shopper data, it allows you to be the ears, allows you to create the ears of which then to speak. So any brand communication, if you allude to the idea of a conversation, should happen because of what you've heard. And obviously there'll be customers you've never had a relationship with, but there'll be many that you have. Would that just be that they've engaged or left their email address?
Have you brought that into like your like social media and being able to, it's like, okay, response times, if someone's got a problem that, whether it's on X or whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, are you bringing in that customer experience to social media too? Is that in your thoughts?
In all channels, because it should be channel agnostic, right? The customer journeys are not owned by brands; they're owned by customers.
Yes.
I don't believe in journey mapping, because if you do that, you're thinking about the journey that a customer might take. What you should be doing is being brilliant in all channels. So when the customer chooses their journey, you're brilliant and you show up and you do it in a brilliant way. And again, that is all informed by data. But I think that because we're moving into that era now where we can do that, then it just challenges the role of the customer experiences within the marketing mix. How many CMOs in 20 years or 25 years I've been working have really had customer experience as a core part of their repertoire, part of their team? Not many, but it's become as much marketing now under leadership of chief customer officers than it's ever been.
I was going to say, do you have a CX team over at Direct Line?
We do. We have a CX. We have many customer experience implementers.
Yeah.
Obviously, digital UX, call centers, social media, and what we now have to think about is, well, that's great, but who owns, who's curating, who's architecting the journey?
Who's taking accountability?
Yeah, and so one of the things and I think many businesses are investing in now, which is why they've recruited chief customer officers, is when you think about customer experiences and customer journeys, and that experience can be just marketing, it doesn't have to be service, is what is my customer's approach? What's the architecture? If you do the analogy between an architect and a builder, the architect creates the plans and it's exciting because you can see the finished product, you can see the house. Every builder might be brilliant in their own trade, a carpenter, tiler, brilliant in their own trade, probably motivated by the bigger picture, but don't have any accountability for it because they're brilliant at what they do. What customer journey or customer experience management and strategy has is the ability to be the architect and go, actually, this is what the finished product could look like for customers if we join the dots.
As long as it can be delivered into that vision,
and
right?
as long as everyone excels at what they do in knowledge of the bigger picture. And I think that's where marketing, and I think AI will have a role to play in that, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we kind of future gaze a bit and look forward over the next sort of 5, 10, 15 years, how do you see AI changing your job personally? Is the role of the marketer going to be diminished due to an artificial intelligent marketer being able to, when we factor in automation that can actually be delivered as well as the intelligence, what does the marketer of 2045 look like?
I'm less threatened by it because I think that
You'll be retired by then.
Yeah, I'll be retired by then, hopefully.
Yes.
Because I think that you still need the marketing wizard to have a conductor, and I still think that someone still needs to create whatever you'd use data for. Rules have to be created. In this instance, do this. In this instance, do that. In this instance, deliver the best message to drive
whatever
KPI.
outcome. Yeah,
it could be that is deliver the best outcome to drive increased short-term profitability. It could be long-term profitability. Someone still needs to decide at any moment in time what the business is trying to achieve, because it's like you can put batteries in the Duracell Buddy, then you kind of push it and it keeps going to. Someone still needs to push it.
Great campaign, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great campaign. But someone still needs to push it in the direction that they want it to travel, and then you can let the bunny do the. So I think there is still a requirement for you go back to the gut versus data, but I just think it's different to what it used to be.
It's also, as I was listening to you talking, I was thinking it's also an accountability issue, right? Someone needs to take accountability for the decisioning, even if the decisioning is being done by computers at your behest.
Yeah.
What you said, someone has to put those rules in, and I'm just, thinking, is that person going to be more of a data science person in the future, or more of a kind of these are questions we don't know the answers to.
There will be more data. There'll be more data people in the marketing department. That's for sure. There'll be more weighting towards data than perhaps on the traditional creative side. But you'll still need a traditional creative team, and it might be very small, but you'll still need one. Because the problem with what AI really does, it helps. If it goes back to we've always had the days of the champion challenger on creative and advertising. Going, if you could have a system that just continually adapts and optimizes to create the best outcome, what it won't do is pivot and go down a completely different route, because it only knows what it's learned. And again, it goes back to the original point I made around econometrics. It's only based on the past. It's not based on the future. So
we can only count what we can count. We can only measure what we can measure.
Yeah, it only learn. It's a learning thing, right? So it can only learn. It's a generative thing. It has to learn by what's ingested. So a great, innovative, creative idea that might drive, affinity with your prospective consumer is not going to come from AI. Yeah, your performance might.
It could be
evolve.
delivered by yes.
It won't become. So you've got to understand then that scenario, the role that creativity and curiosity, and in some cases audacity in the young people that we have in the teams in creating new ideas plays relative to the role that AI will play in delivering really efficient optimization. I think in a perfect world, if you join those together, a brilliantly delivered sales CRM engine room driven by AI, all that will do is give us more opportunity to invest in creative brand ideas. Because if you think in any business, the sort of performance model is what gives you permission to invest in your brand. In many cases, CFO, that's the way it works. So imagine in a world where you're driving more and more ROI, being better and better at delivering customer communications and performance, allowing you to then enter new markets, create new products, create new brands.
Yeah, I think this is it. I think it's very easy to kind of get lost in your own echo chamber of narrowing down, and then you from a consumer perspective, you start to become robotic in how you are. So it's still the creative piece, the non-computery piece is where you are delivering real experience and something new. And I don't believe for a second a campaign that I enjoyed was we're going back a while, but I think it was Sony Bravia and the bouncing balls and all the color that brought. That wasn't a computer that was able to, a computer wouldn't be able to come up with that. It's, and I think it wows and delights. And I think it still takes humans to wow and delight a customer. We're just using the technology to be able to understand the results of it and the output from it.
That's right, because however we look at it, AI is phenomenal computing power, learning from what it's ingested. It will not I don't think it will outperform the power of creativity that we have, certainly in our industry, marketing industry. And it's just a new way of balancing the gut and the data, right? It's just that data is now becoming much more automated, and machine learning is the future. But you cannot let that. I don't believe you can let that out. Or dominate creative thinking, because consumers want to have a relationship with brands, not with computers.
So what are you most excited about over the next few years, both from a kind of personal career perspective and also from the company transformation perspective?
So I think that, being that I'm passionately driven by the world of advertising because it's where I've grown from, I'm excited around the relationships that brands can have with customers in a way that's in a way that I find more relevant. I think the value exchange, which we talked about for some time, we really have the opportunity to build better relationships with customers as a result of the data that we utilize. We have to be more responsible in the way we use data. So I think that's quite exciting because, and again, as someone that's spent a lot of time and money in investing in TV advertising, when you think of the opportunity that data technology brings you in that space, if we act responsibly, then it's going to be it should be a richer experience for consumers, a much richer experience for consumers. What worries me is that we make the same mistake that we've made probably over the last decade around digital advertising, where we've not acted responsibly. We've obviously seen challenges around viewability, around bombardment, around excess frequency, around advertising in brand unsafe environments, fraud, all driven out of that fast growth around digital. And the collateral damage has been trust, consumer trust. If we don't learn from that, and that happens in the TV space with connected TV, SVOD, and we don't sit forward and learn from that experience, it could cripple the advertising industry as a whole because consumers trust TV advertising. They, to some degree, love TV advertising.
Well, I think it could stymie the growth and the acceleration of it. I think that whenever there's new opportunities, companies will evolve. So the problem is, the second you put down a metric, going, we're focused on this metric, there are companies who will find out how to game it. And we've seen this since day dot of digital, and we've both been, kind of part of the problem within it, right? You on the buy side, me on the sell side of my career, because it's like, okay, well, there's the metric to work to. So it's how do we?
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to incentives. Incentives need to be aligned, and in the game of advertising, I think it's important for both sides to always remember the consumer at the heart of it.
Yeah, I think it's always important, whether it's short-term advertising, whether it's long-term brand building, effectiveness and measurement of effectiveness is what should be driving all decision you make over efficiency. There will be times now with the use of data we can go, actually, there is a channel or a audience where we can drive 400% return on investment. That audience might be one person. And remembering that the most efficient marketing spend you can ever have is zero. But zero marketing will have no impact on effectiveness. And so effectiveness has to be at the heart of everything we do. What's the most effective way of driving a consumer outcome? Using data, using real-time decisioning, using creative, using media channels or CRM channels, using digital experiences, whatever it might be. What's the most effective way of driving an outcome? And that way, it reminds you that you're targeting audiences, and you're doing it in a way that's most likely to appeal and drive action. And so, as long as marketers are focused on effectiveness and are clear on, what am I trying to achieve from that? Am I trying to drive short-term sales, long-term sales, brand building, or whatever? Then I think we'll be okay. I think the problem with digital advertising is it wasn't about effectiveness; it's about efficiency. It was never about. Otherwise, why would you advertise on a channel that no one can see? You serve ads that weren't even being displayed, or they were displayed or viewable, but they weren't viewed. And if they were viewed on a quarter of a screen. And they didn't have sound, all these sorts of things. Well, that is never going to drive an effective outcome. That's never going to work.
No, but at the right price, advertisers buy it, and that's the problem. It all boils down to economics, incentives, and the ability to game platforms, which I suppose comes back to the more data you have around what's really going on, because being able to buy digital display at sub 10-cent CPM sounds great until you realize it's a complete and utter waste of money.
So going on, so that's around understanding the effectiveness, so having the right measurement place to understand it, but knowing what something's worth to you as a brand as a result of that. And so
individual value, personal value, right?
What am I prepared to pay programmatically for an impression on a website versus another channel or another format? What am I prepared to pay? And that's why cross-media measurement is becoming more and more of a requirement, more of a demand from advertisers, because that cross-media, that opportunity to measure across media means you can start to build assumptions in around the impact that attention has, the attention economy. Because going back to an AI, if you were to feed those attention rules into an AI system, it would learn from, okay, well, a 20-second ad on ITV costs you this, but has an impact of that. Might be a better decision in real time than pushing it through to a banner placement which is 300% cheaper, but its impact is minimal. And so when you're making decisions around AI using that data, yes, it's about getting the right message to the right customer at the right time, but on the right channel that's most likely to drive an outcome. And I think once that happens and the measurement is in place, the fair measurement cross media with sort of level playing field, it will automatically default to those channels that are more effective. And by effective, I mean the cost in media versus the outcome that it drives.
So, if talking to other marketers, for any marketers that are listening to this, you've got a long and storied career, you've still got more to go, but what advice would you give to other marketers who may be kind of considering things around data, ML, AI, just in terms of ways to think?
I would say for any young marketer, that's thinking about their personal development plan,
Yeah.
I would strongly suggest that the understanding the role that data plays in the evolution of the marketing landscape is critical. And that's a conversation I have with my team all the time. Understanding the tools that are out there, because this direction of travel is not going to slow down. It's going to accelerate. So that's really important, I think. The other thing I would say is, and this is for all levels of marketing, is that I've been to many conversations, many situations like this where people said, "Oh, it's all about the relationship with your CFO." It is, but nowadays it's also about your relationship with your CIO, because if you're not working in partnership, none of this stuff can happen. How you manage, and also your chief data officer, how you collect, how you store, how you manage your data, your infrastructure, your architecture, and how you access that data and then push that through to deliver the ability to deliver personalized campaigns, is the change in the sort of the climate we're seeing. And so unless that relationship exists, and that's the biggest learning I've had in the last 18 months is, get to know your CIO team, get to know the people that work in tech, because they know more than you do. And so I'd say that would be my number one. If anyone wants to take an action from this, go and talk to your tech team.
Yeah, I think that, look, I think upskilling ourselves as individuals to have more knowledge around it. So we're not completely the dumbest person in the room when it comes to those conversations. Well, look, Sam, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Before we go, is there anything else that you wanted that I haven't covered that you'd like to mention, or in terms of people getting in touch with you, or anything that you'd like to say?
No, I mean, I'm always open. If anyone wants to reach out, then the door's always open. I'm not very good at using social media, but I'm good at LinkedIn. So, if anyone wants to reach out, then please do. I'm on LinkedIn and I'll connect and we can have a chat. I love a conversation in this space. In all the years, obviously working in a marketing role now, media advertising is as much as a hobby, a passion to me, that it is part of the day job. And I'm always happy to have conversations, so do reach out.
Awesome. That's great. Sam, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.